Hello and welcome. We'll get started shortly. Come on in. All right. Welcome today. We are very glad that you have joined us as we near the end of LPDW for 2022. This is our 12th annual Learning and Professional Development Week. My name is Erica L. Reynolds. I am the VP of Enterprise Learning and Talent Development here at City of Hope, and I'm so glad to have you join us for this time of learning. Now, this year, we focused on living our values, building the next level of a compassionate and collaborative workforce. We featured an exciting week of engaging content with over 31 sessions about enhancing a compassionate and collaborative workforce. So we invite you to use the chat to connect with each other and also ask questions of our panelists. Today's session is going to focus on the new era of collaboration. I am pleased to introduce our panel of speakers. They're going to be talking about conversations from the Huddle. We have Byron Scott, 2008 NBA Coach of the Year, two-time NBA All-Star Game head coach. Reggie Theus, former NBA head coach, WWAC champion head coach, two-time NBA All-Star. John Mosely, current star of Netflix's critically acclaimed Emmy Award-winning sports docuseries, Last Chance U, named one of the 50 most impactful coaches in JUCO men's basketball. And this is all moderated by William Middlebrooks, also known as Coach, head men's coach, entrepreneur, and speaker. William, I'm going to pass it over to you. Thank you all for coming today.
Thanks, Erica, and hello to the City of Hope. We're excited to be here today to share with you in this 2022 Leadership and Professional Week. Again, my name is William Middlebrooks. It's my pleasure to moderate today's panel. Before we get started, though, I want to thank everyone from the City of Hope who's joined us and what I hope to be, and I believe will be a transformative hour of power. You all are doing extraordinary work during unprecedented times, and we applaud you for your tremendous service. I also want to thank Erica Reynolds again, QB King, Natasha Clark, Jackie Pounce, Anna Perez, and Leslie James for allowing us to share with you. I hope your time's well spent. It's uplifting and empowering because that's our goal. So let's jump right into the conversations from the Huddle. In our Huddle today, as Erica said, we have three absolutely amazing gentlemen that I'm also fortunate to call friends, Byron Scott, Reggie Theus, and John Mosely. Now, it's important to note, all three played the game of basketball at a very high level from the point guard position. Also, as coaches, they've all led their teams to tremendous success. So what this does is give them a unique perspective on the concept of collaboration. To start, we're going to have John, then from there, Reggie, and then from there, Byron, each which will start by giving us 5 minutes each from their thoughts and viewpoints regarding effective collaboration. And then from there, we'll go into active conversational dialogue with the whole panel, as well as incorporate Q&A questions from you that are out there listening to us. We encourage you all to send in your questions as well as your comments in the chat so we know you're there, completely engaged, and we want to answer questions that you may have and find interesting. So to kick things off, we're going to start with John Mosely, who is the current star of the Emmy Award-winning Netflix sports docuseries Last Chance U. If you haven't seen the show, it's definitely worth binge watching, without a doubt. John is also the head coach at East LA College, a 7-time Coach of the Year, and as Erica mentioned, he was one of the 50 most impactful coaches in junior college basketball. He speaks all over the country, and I particularly felt his message is totally synergistic with the theme for the day, a new era of collaboration. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you a prolific collaborator, John Mosely, who will share with us for about 5 minutes. John, take it away.
Will, thanks for that introduction, and the City of Hope, thanks for having me. I'm kind of humbled to be here, man. It's an honor to kind of be able to speak from the heart. That's what I'm about. So, I know you may be looking for bullet point 1, 2, 3, but for me, it comes from the heart. And for those that had the opportunity to see the docuseries Last Chance U, just real quick, I had no idea that it would have the impact that it did, and some of the leadership thoughts that came out of it, and collaboration, and they asked me to do it, and I said, you know what, I'm not interested, because I thought it would be boring, and all I'm gonna do is coach, and I'm gonna be myself and authentic. And I think it resonated, and it had tremendous success because of the authenticity. And as we go into our leadership, I said, I'm gonna just be real, and I'm gonna do what I do. I'm gonna love people, and I'm gonna be excited to see people have success. And I think that's what comes from my heart. So, as you guys take notes, I don't know what's bullet point 1, 2, 3, but I know from the heart, initially starting out as a leader, I'm a junior college coach. And so I know what I get. I know that there's diamonds that I get daily that walk through the door. There's these diamonds, but they got these rough edges, and they have these things that happen. And at the community college level, which I'm here at East LA College, and I'm in the greater Los Angeles area, I get these young men that have this tremendous talent, but they've been broken in some way, whether it started when they were youth, or whether they've experienced some success and then they've been broken, whether it's injury, whether it's academics, whether it's being incarcerated. All these diverse things that happen to these young men in terms of what I deal with, in spite of all that, they all have this diamond. They all have this talent that can shine. And I know as we prepare those that we work for, or those that we're trying to help to excel, they all have these diamonds. And I get excited when I see that diamond, I see that gift. And for me, I personally take it as a challenge. It's like, hey, let me see how I can press this diamond. Let me see how I can make this diamond shine. So I kind of get excited about that. But then as we go along, of course, we see that there are some challenges within trying to make that diamond shine. We see why that diamond wasn't shining in the first place, or why maybe that individual wasn't excelling, or why they fell back to the junior college level or the community college level, and why they are not where they should be. And as you've seen throughout the show, you've seen some of the challenges. It was real time, some of the challenges that happened, and that was displayed. And a young man, mom passed away and dad passed away, another young man incarcerated. They got these emotional issues and challenges and all these different things. I think the first step for me was to understand, I can see myself, and all of us got to understand, we kind of lose patience. So we forget where we were at. We forget who we were because we've matured so much. I've matured in the business. I'm 40-something years old. I've matured. I get it. I understand. But I'm starting back to the same 17-year-old every year. I get older, but the same 17, 18, 19-year-old walks through the door, and I have to remember that. And that's something that presses on my heart every year when I start all over again with another team, another group. That's something that presses on my heart. And then number two, just everyone comes with a different scenario or situation. And I got to remember to find out what's going on in each of their lives, or why they're responding maybe in a good way or in a poor way. I have to figure out why they're responding or how they're responding to adversity and why they respond a certain way. And sometimes we don't realize what's going on in their lives. And so I spend a tremendous amount of time with young men and people, regardless if it's basketball or whatever it is, trying to find out a little bit of what's going on and why they're responding a certain way. And then when I find those things out, I try to live those burdens out with them. So when they're going through something, the reason why they can't perform is because what they're going through, we don't get it. We don't understand. We just say, you need to perform. Where's your performance? Like my kids will come in, the young men will come in and I'll say, you know what, you suck. Like, what's going on? Why are you lethargic? Why are you not performing? Why are you not attentive? Don't you want this? Well, you know what? The people, they want to be successful. They want to have success. They want to win. They want to work together as a team. They want they want numbers. They want to grow. They want all of that. And so you say, why are they responding to adversity if they want to grow, if they want to have success, if they want to win? Well, if we can live out those burdens, then what happens is I've developed a trust once I've lived out those burdens. And now once I've lived out those burdens and I kind of realize that they can trust me with their circumstances and we know what's going on, then we can kind of help them. We can kind of help them live it out. And so I think that's kind of what we saw for those who saw the show. And that's what goes on here with me at the junior college level. And that's kind of my passion. And that's kind of why I'm here. And I think a lot of people, the show resonated with a lot of people.
Absolutely amazing, John. Absolutely amazing. We want to jump right to Reggie so he can jump in. Reggie Theus is a 13-year NBA veteran, two-time NBA All-Star, former NBA head coach, and the current athletic director, as well as head coach at Bethune-Cookman University and HBCU in Florida. He's one of only 5 players in NBA history to both score over 19,000 points and earn 16,000 assists. That's tremendous when you talk about an ability to collaborate with his teammates. Reggie also co-starred alongside A-list comedian Anthony Anderson on the NBA hit sitcom Hang Time. And then many people don't know, before Shaquille O'Neal, before Charles Barkley, before Kenny Anderson, Reggie was actually the co-host originally with Ernie Johnson on TNT. But most importantly, Reggie is a master collaborator, and he's going to be able to share some tremendous insights with us today. So without further ado, let's jump to Reggie.
Middlebrooks, thank you. Thank you. First of all, it was 6,500 assists, by the way, because those are keeping score. You said 16, and that would, I know.
My bad.
No, I know Byron is over there cracking up because he always said I didn't pass the ball anyway. Listen, they say life is focused. It's like a camera. It's focused on what's important. And if you don't get what's important, if it doesn't work out right, then what you do is you take another shot. In other words, it captures the positive and the negative in your life. So it's either I'm in the corner, give me the ball, or put me in, coach, I'm ready to play. So, it's all these things, it gives us a sense of self, and it gives us a sense of what we're trying to do. I want to thank the City of Hope, and also I want to thank you, Middlebrooks, for inviting me to be here. What a great panel. I just enjoy so much talking to guys like, John Mosely, and also my friend Byron, who I've known since going back when he was just in high school. And being a part of a new era of collaboration and compassion. I think that this is such a fantastic conversation. And really, we could talk about this all day long because there's 100 different components. I actually looked up, and John was talking about bullet points, where there's like 100 bullet points. So the conversation could take any road it wants. Jasmine Ward said so eloquently, real success requires step after step choices. It demands passion, commitment, persistence, hunger, and patience. And I think about these things, and I remember in my life, and I'm going to tell this story really quick because Byron is this is about Byron actually. And when I was doing television, TNT, Byron was coaching, and then I started coaching after that. I asked Byron, I don't know if Byron remembers this. I asked Byron, I said, Byron, what is the most important thing about coaching? And Byron said to me, when I thought about this, I said, this is perfect for what we're talking about. I said, what is the most important thing you feel that to make a great coach? Because that's something that I wanted to do. And what he said to me was sincerity. And that was a huge word because that also rings in compassion. I can go on and on about different things that have happened in my life that bring me to today. My high school basketball coach spent a lot of time with me. And he said, one day I asked him, I said, Coach, what is it about me? What is it that you want me to do? And why are you spending so much time with me? He said, Reggie, I spend time with you because I know that you're ultimately going to do some great things. And at some point, it's going to be your turn. And I was like, wow, this is, he always thought I wasn't listening, but it just sinks so deep into my core. My dad and I spent a little time when I was younger. My dad passed when I was 16, going into be my senior year, junior year to senior year. And I learned my work ethic and compassion and this collaboration, even as a young man with a father. My father was a janitor. He cleaned buildings. He used to take me to work with him all the time. And, I had to run the big buffer machine, sweep the floors with the big mops, clean toilets, whatever it is. And it was a Friday night. And, I was not happy for being there. I wanted to be out with my boys and hanging out. And my dad saw how incredibly upset I was for being there. And I say these things because I have grown to believe that I coach my team like I raise my own children. And this is the kind of thing that I got from my dad. He said to me, he put his arm around me. He said, Reggie, I don't want you to ever have to do this work for a living. This is not where you want to be. I know you want to be with your friends. And I don't want you to have to do this for a living. But the one thing you have to understand, it's not going to hurt you to learn how. So that has been my mantra forever now. It's, what are you willing to do to be successful? Are you willing to swing that heavy mop? Are you willing to do the dirty work? Are you willing to get on your hands and knees and make it happen? This is about being successful in everything that you do. I'm dealing with things now as an athletic director of Bethune-Cookman and also the men's head basketball coach. I have a kid who came to me and we had to get him a waiver to play. And so as he comes to me and transferred in to try to get a waiver to the NC2A, it didn't really work out. It didn't work out for him. And he didn't get his waiver. He had to sit out. He's very upset about it. And he's acting out. And as he's acting out, I'm thinking about, do I have to kick this kid off the team before he even gets started? Because, and I say that to you because in the workplace, we have to coach our teams. We have to coach our employees. We have to be a team in the workplace. And you have to do and be and coach everybody as an individual. This kid is very angry. He's acting out disrespectfully. So instead of kicking him off the team, I had to bring him in my office and find out what was going on with him. And what I found out, because I took the time, we collaborated and I had compassion in dealing with him, opposed to old school, where they tell you to tie your shoes up, tape them up tighter, or get out. Either do it my way or it's the highway. You know, today's world is very different. It's become very, very, very small with social media. And I found out this kid went through a lot in his, you know, with his parents and in his childhood, and he was just a very angry kid. And through those conversations, I learned a better way to coach him. I learned a better way to mentor him. And I think that we all need to take time and really find a better way to communicate with each other. And see, becoming an athletic director, I had never been an athletic director. So this is my opportunity to do more. And I've had a blessed life. So for me to be able to come hit Bethune-Cookman and become the athletic director and coach basketball, I'm so blessed to be able to do this. But the opportunity to have the platform to do more for kids and to keep mentoring them is just an incredible blessing for me. And I learned over the years, I have a question. Do you get more production out of fear or out of compassion? In other words, do you get more with honey or vinegar? And I think that all of us come from an era where we basically got told what to do. I can remember being grabbed by my chest and slammed up against the lockers because I wasn't playing well. Well, if you do that now, you go to jail. So, you know, life has changed. And I think life changed really when they stopped giving out whoopings, when they start giving out timeouts. You know, we've become a much softer, more PC world. And I think that it's up to us to find different ways to communicate and different ways to be sincere, as Byron said, about life. And I found that coaching in the NBA and then also coaching in college, it doesn't really matter where you're coaching. If the players believe that you are sincere about coaching them, you can coach them hard. So I'm not going to take up, I apologize. I know I went a little long, but you know, it goes into so many different things. It goes into hazing. It goes into, you know, punishment running. It goes into player empowerment, where the league that Byron and I played in, basically the coaches ran the league. Now the players run the league, you know, where the upper management, you know, going way back, would basically tell the players what was going on in the collective bargaining. Now we have players sitting at the table telling them how we're going to do it. So the world is very different. And I'm happy to be a part of this new era of collaboration and compassion. It's a learning experience for me, but it's been a lot of fun. And I think that as long as we stay ready to communicate on different levels, we're all going to be all right.
Reggie, man, that was powerful, brother. That was definitely powerful. I think people took a lot from it. I definitely did. And I'm going to have a couple questions for you, too. We come back. But lastly, I want to bring Byron Scott to the stage, three-time NBA champion with the infamous Showtime edition of the Lakers. Byron's also a former NBA head coach and was named the 2008 NBA Coach of the Year. As a player, Byron earned almost every accolade imaginable from high school to college to the NBA, and his pro career spanned from 83 to 98, which is incredible longevity considering the average player only lasts 2.3 years. What I did find interesting while preparing for this, there's an article where Magic Johnson confirmed that the late Dr. Jerry Buss knew that Byron Scott would be a great coach. And obviously Jerry Buss was a tremendous visionary. Byron also has the unique distinction of having both played with Kobe Bryant and then coached Kobe. That's why I know he's a proven collaborator, and I'm on the edge of my seat, man. I want to hear what you got to say to us. Let's go, Byron.
Coach, thank you so much, man. It is an honor and a pleasure to be in this panel with these two distinguished gentlemen. When you're talking about John Mosely and what he's been able to accomplish in his coaching career, you talk about Reggie Theus and what he's been able to accomplish as a player and a coach. And when you know, I almost fell off the floor when you said he has 16,000 assists. I was like, that ain't the Reggie Theus I know. I was like, no. I was like, that must be a mistake. No way, Reggie had 16,000 assists. I was like, Reggie was the point guard they are today. Shoot first, shoot second, then pass third. But I love Reggie to death. And I do remember, Reggie, that conversation when you came into the locker and you talked to me about that. And sincerity was the thing that I said was the key to being a successful coach. I should have said, you know, great players is what you need to be a successful coach. That goes without a doubt. But I also had a conversation with Reggie, and a lot of people don't know this. And Reggie, I don't know if he remembers. Reggie was playing with the Chicago Bulls, and he was an all-star player. Just, you know, he was really the first big point guard that I've ever seen in the NBA at 6'7", 6'8", bringing the ball up and then, you know, initiating the offense and things of that nature. And I was getting heavily recruited by UNLV. I had dropped my choices to UNLV, Arizona State, and UCLA. And UNLV got me tickets to watch Chicago Bulls against the Lakers. And after the game, I had the pleasure of meeting Reggie going into my senior year. So we've known each other, like he said, since I was in high school. And he gave me the best advice, you know, that a player could give a young man at that particular time. He said, "Are you really thinking about going to UNLV?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Don't." And I said, okay, you know, and I knew he knew something, and it was a reason why he was saying it. So I decided to go to Arizona State and, you know, have the type of career that I had. But when it comes to collaboration, I think as players, guys, we never think about collaborating. We think about the individual, ourselves, doing the things that we have to do to get ready for a ball game and competing at a very high level. And I always thought about, you know, the team game of basketball is just doing everything I could, you know, from a physical and a mental standpoint, to get ready and prepared to play at the best that I could play. And my main objective was always never to let my teammates down. You let your teammates down when you don't come prepared, when you're not in shape, when you're not mentally at a game, when you got other things going on in your life, that's when you're not prepared. So I always felt that I had to be mentally as well as physically prepared to play at a very high level. And collaborating with those players that I played with, you know, the Magic Johnsons, the James Worthies, the Kareems, the Coops, all those great players that I played with the Showtime Lakers, got me to understand what collaborating and teamwork was all about. It was all about being able to give for one another. I love what John said earlier when he said that, listen, he loves seeing people succeed. You know, it brings a smile to his face. That's a leader. That's a true leader. When you love seeing other people succeed, that's what it's all about. That's what it is about giving back to the community. That's what it is about giving back to your fellow man, no matter what it is. You know, that to me is one of the biggest things that you can do as a leader or a leader of men. That's one of the best things you can do, is leave that, you know, that stage of them understanding what it's all about to be successful. The one thing I will say, a few other things, when I got into coaching, it was a little bit different, you know, because now that collaboration is with your assistant coaches. You want them to all have opportunities to be a head coach sometimes, if that's what they wish to do. You want your players to be successful and going to do big things as well. And the one thing that I found that was very interesting when I got into coaching is that when you're leading people, you got to, number one, and Reggie said this too a little while ago, you got to figure out as a leader what makes those people tick. What makes your players tick? You know, what is it that's going to really get those guys going? And once you can figure that out, then you have their trust and you have that conversation that kind of opens those doors. Another thing that I've always believed in as a coach is always keep your door open. Make sure that these guys understand that you're always inviting them in to be able to talk to them about anything, not just basketball. It has to be about life as well. You have to take an interest to them. One of the first things that Bill Walton, who Reggie and I know real well, he told me when I said I wanted to get into coaching, he said, never get attached to players. And I told Bill, I said, that's impossible. If you truly love people and you want people to succeed, you're going to get attached no matter what. You know, so I was always one of those coaches that just got really, really attached to my players, wanted to know what was going on in their lives. I always left my door wide open so that we could talk about anything. Honesty, sincerity is something that I'm a big believer in, especially with young people today. You can't BS them. You know, you got to be honest. You got to be straightforward. You got to be honest. And I think that helps them to understand that you truly do care about them as well. And the last thing, or two more things, you know, one of the things that I think is very important as well is you have to be a great listener as a leader as well. You know, you have to be able to listen to people's talking to you, because I know a lot of times at the gym, and Reggie used to go to this gym that we both were members of at Equinox. You know, a lot of people will come up to me and just say, "Hey, how you doing? How's it going?" And then they just walk away, but they're not asking the second and third question, really trying to get to know what's going on with me. And that's something that I took to heart with my players, my coaches, is I'm always trying to get to know them, want them to understand that I'm here for them. And that's what, you know, that compassion that we talk about, being a great leader, and that collaboration that we're talking about. And then I think the last but not least, you know, I think all of us on this panel have, you know, had our setbacks in our lives growing up, you know, and to me, setbacks are just setups for, you know, for comebacks. And I tell all the young guys that as well, is that every time you get knocked down, all it's doing is testing, you know, just testing you. It's just that test of finding out what type of person or player you're going to be, you know, because that adversity tests the true character of a man. And I want to be in the foxhole with guys that I know got my back, are willing to go the extra yard to do whatever it takes to be successful. Playing with Kobe as a rookie and watching the maturation of Kobe Bryant for 20 years to his last, you know, game with the Lakers where he had 60 points, which I was sitting there going, I don't know how this dude does this, was an unbelievable treat for me. And getting to know him and as the person that he is, the husband, the family man, the father, but also just getting to know a little bit about the way Kobe ticked, you know, the Mamba mentality. He just, you know, he never would leave any stone unturned. And that's what I tell young people to this day. He played every game, every practice like it was the last practice that he ever was going to have, the last game he ever was going to have. And if you really attack life that way, you have no way but to be successful. And again, it's a pleasure being on this panel with these great guys, especially my boy Reggie, because I haven't seen Reggie since golf last summer or two, and then he had to take off to Bethune. So hopefully this summer he'll get back here and we can have our skiing games and have some fun.
Man, that was impactful, Byron. Definitely. So I'm gonna ask some questions, and all you guys jump in as you can. The first one I want to ask is Byron Reggie. A player gets traded in the middle of the season, so no different than a new employee would come into the City of Hope. How do you onboard a new team member to ensure organically through the process of them coming in that there's a foundation or spirit of collaboration that's built into that process?
Well, I'll start on that if you don't mind, Byron, because I believe I don't even know. Were you traded? Where'd you start off? I mean, like you never got traded, right?
Well, I was traded from the Clippers to the Lakers.
Yeah, but that was like you never really played though. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I kind of jumped in.
So I never got traded.
Yeah. So being traded, like let me try to just briefly try to show you or tell you how that feels. I thought that I was going to be in Chicago for my entire career. I thought that my relationship with the fans and I was, you know, one of the better players. You know, my numbers still stand and they were chanting my name, Reggie, until they got this guy named Michael Jordan. Then all that stopped, by the way, which rightfully so. But the fact that, you know, when you have to remember, when you come to a new job, there's a certain amount of fear that's going on. And when you're going through the change of being from one team to the next, that, you know, you question a lot of what you are and what you're about. And, you know, because in order for you to either get fired and go to a new job or just be the new guy on the block or get traded for that matter, somebody had to want to let you go. So in that breakup, there's a lot of doubt that comes along. So the best thing that someone can do when a new person comes on is to give them confidence that this is a good place to be. and that if you work hard, people will gather around you. And I think that reaching out and just saying hello, I think, you know, in the workplace, I know in the basketball world, it's throwing me the ball, it's putting your arm around, it's you know, giving a guy a bump and saying, hey, we're glad you're here. Cotton Fitzsimmons, the late Cotton Fitzsimmons, you know, he says he got me out of purgatory when he traded for me out of Chicago. And the first thing he said, and this is super important because this is the ultimate in compassion and it's also collaboration. He said he traded for me. By the way, I missed playing with Michael Jordan by 15 minutes. They traded me 15 minutes before the deadline, before they wouldn't have been able to trade me. Then they drafted Michael Jordan. So I would be walking around like Byron with a bunch of rings on my finger had that not happened. But that's a long story. That's a whole nother story, by the way. So Cotton got me at the last minute. And the next day, he brought me into his office and he said, Reggie, you're going to play tonight. I said, Cotton, how am I going to play tonight? Like, you know, I don't know anything that you guys are doing. He said, Reggie, what have you done your whole life? He said, I've scored. He said, so when you get in the game, score. And don't worry about anything else. Just do what you do. Be a team player, run the floor. And when you get the ball, shoot when you're open, pass when you're not. The point being is that those words took the weight of all of what I went through in Chicago off my back. And it was an enormous sense of just like, so when someone new comes in, don't think that being standoffish and that they're supposed to walk up to you. Be a bigger person and walk up to them and welcome them. And I think that that's the biggest thing that someone can do, either it be a new team or a new job.
Hey, Reg, just to add to that, and like Reg said, he was coming from a situation where he was a star player, you know, being traded. I had a situation in New Orleans where I traded, or we made a big trade, and we brought in a young man from Miami named Sewell Butler, who was, you know, inactivated, never got a chance to play, you know, so it also goes the other way, you know, so he was extremely excited because now it was a new opportunity for him. And I met him there, like Reg said, with open arms and told him, hey, listen, we're looking forward to having you here. You get a chance to play here. You know, you get a chance to play here. You just got to go out there on the floor. And that right there gave him that added confidence and boost that he needed. But change of scenery sometimes, you know, coach, is great for certain guys because, like you said, they can be, like Red said, they can be in purgatory where they're not playing at all, or in a bad situation. They get moved to another situation where they get an opportunity to have a fresh start. And for me, with Rasul, it was an unbelievable relationship I formed with that young man, and he ended up having a really good long NBA career because he was a very good serviceable player, but he was a great person. You know, that's the one thing that everybody loved about him. He came to work every single day, didn't take any days for granted, you know, and he did his job. So, you know, it can kind of go both ways when you're traded.
But the main thing with that, Byron, is sincerity. And the main thing is reaching out. Extending a hand to somebody goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And John, same kind of question to you. You're in a different market, but you talked earlier about you get broken men and how you have a constant transition of players. It's almost like every year or two, these kids are getting traded and to some degree, not even wanted. And then you've got to bring that kid in and build them up. And we even got one question from the audience. How does your faith also get involved with that as you impact these young men? And how impactful is it for them, and how are they responding to that?
Well, that's where the conviction comes in when you talk about faith. And I'm glad you brought it up. You know, you never know in terms of that platform that you have to speak on that. But I think that's where the overall conviction, where it starts in terms of wanting to, you know, help these young men or help people out of whatever situation they're in, and having that patience. I think everybody's been taught to, like, we're trying to win. We're trying to have success. We're trying to do well. And I know in some cases our jobs are on the line to put up numbers or to win games or to do all that or just the end results. But I've learned, at least in my experience, that if I don't back up and start there where that talent, if I'm self-serving, that talent is going to be the one that helps push us over. And then when you learn about the talent, you start to have this compassion. And it's the same compassion that essentially Christ had for me, right? He had this compassion because I was once this broken person, this broken soul. I was this young man who needed direction. And the conviction continues to come back if I stay locked into my faith, that I got to draw back and I got to reach back and I have to pull them up and I have to help those young men. And I think when I talked about our maturity and our lack of patience with with us becoming mature, because it's the same 17-year-old and 18-year-old, or it's someone new who we have to teach this new system. We have to teach this new process to. We have to realize that we were once there, and that if we can, have that patience, and if we can draw back to what that felt like, kind of as Reggie talked about, what did that feel like when you walk through the door? And if we can continue to kind of remember that, and we can draw back from that, and it sounds simplistic, right? Remember where you came from. But if we can kind of remember that, and we can kind of remember that, even in our brokenness, we were, in our faith, we were wretched human beings, or we were rookies at some point, or we were a newbie at some point. If we can kind of remember that and have compassion and not, be such a shark and be like, no, let's get it together. And I think Reggie talked about it, times have changed. I think we got to have a little bit more compassion to that. And to be honest, to my surprise, man, when I've reached back and helped some, and you'll be surprised at what you can get out of that and what you can get out of those young men. Once they break down that barrier, once they see that you care about them, you'll be surprised at the brick wall that they'll run through for you. You'll be surprised at their response to performing the task that you ask them to do, just because they see you care and you have this interest. The walls break down, and you'll be surprised at the diamond, the talent, the stuff that comes out. And I draw back to that as well. I say, well, I had an experience with another young man, and maybe if I do the same and kind of reach back and find out what's going on, and open up my arms and have compassion for him, like I have for the other young man, maybe it'll work out, regardless of how he looks on the surface. Because some of them I can't stand. I'm like, you know what? There's no way I'm going to be able to work with this young man. I can't stand it. But if I just say, let me just have the patience and try and let me see. And then to my surprise, the ones that are so hard to deal with usually are the ones that blossom into something special. I had a young man this year, quick story. Great looking kid, great response, great all that. Some adversity hit and he just tailspinned. And I'm like, what the heck? What's wrong with this kid? I'm like, oh, no. This response is not going to happen. And again, I almost lost this patience. And I'm like, you know what? And I, to a fault, I have to say this too. And I have to confess. I said, you know what? I'm not going to be able to deal with this kid. Well, college coach called me and he said, hey, coach, I want to recruit this kid. I said, okay. He said, hey, but I recruited him out of high school. Is he still dealing with that autism issue? And I literally almost broke down in tears. I said, oh my gosh. And it kind of broke my heart that I didn't know. And here I am looking at his response. And I'm like, I didn't know that he had a sense of autism. And because he held it so well. And then eventually the kid approached me and said, coach, did you know, because he was a good student, his family, his parents, they did a great job with hiding it. And it made all the kind of sense, all sense in the world. His response after that, I learned how to coach him after that. He eventually became a starter. He had an impact. We go on this 17-game winning streak because I understood, took time to learn what he was about and realized, let me go back and figure out what's going on. And now I'm kind of humbled to see that all of these, everybody I work with, whether it's young men or people or whatever, there's a reason why they respond a certain way. And if we can just dig in and find out, man, we can get the best out of them.
You know what,
That's
John?
huge, John. That's huge.
Hey,
I want to,
I'm sorry.
I don't want to cut you off, but you keep that thought, because I wanted to tie in a little bit too. So Reggie, keep going with the thought process, because when we talk about Ben Simmons this year and how public he was with his mental health challenges and tackling all that, and how NBA and his teams responded to that. Yeah, take us there with that.
Well,
Reggie.
yeah, and the funny, Middlebrooks, we've always been connected, because that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to talk about Ben Simmons being outward in his mental health and how other players have come out, gymnastics and other sports about mental health. And it's something that back in the day, we didn't think about it. Back in the day, we would just say that, oh, that person's just crazy. We didn't know it was schizophrenic or ADHD and, all these other letters that people have for these situations. I think that the world has become so compassionate when it comes to these areas. Even sexuality, for that matter. I mean, the world has become much more acceptant of all of these things. And when you start talking about faith and you start talking about people in their journeys, like you already know that your steps are already ordered, and you have to do the legwork to realize all of your dreams. And you cannot minister, nor can you mentor if you haven't gone through some things yourself. So ultimately, it is your faith that makes you successful, because it's only faith that keeps us from walking in the wrong door. And it's to walk around the corner where there's something going on and you turn the corner and went the other way. I mean, so many times in my life, I've been shielded from something tragic, but that doesn't mean that I haven't gone through a lot of things on my own, because my path is different from your path. Our journeys are different, but ultimately, we have to learn that we all walk by faith. And, most successful people walk by faith at some point in their life, whether they even know it or not. I just think that it's just one of those things that you have to continue to understand. And we could talk about, faith and how it means and what it means, but I guarantee you that each one of us, our steps were there. We've taken different paths, but it's only been our faith that has made us successful people. I think that me being here is faith, and my faith in what I want. I prayed. Let me tell you the story. I prayed, and Byron knows this. I wanted to coach. Byron, I've had this conversation with you. I wanted to coach. I didn't know where. I just wanted to coach, and I prayed on it. And I wanted to, of course I wanted to be in the NBA, or I wanted to be at a Power 5 school, or I wanted to be, someplace where it's, really great, atmosphere and got all the amenities. And so all of a sudden this opportunity comes up, because I've always prayed to have a bigger platform to do more. So all of a sudden I prayed for this, and then something came up across the country at a small HBCU that is no frills and a lot of hard work. And I said to my wife, and I said to myself, am I not going to take this job after I prayed for it? Am I not going to take this job because it's too far away and it's at a small school? Well, Reggie, this is the best opportunity there is, because it's giving you a chance to sink your hands into something and bring it up, something that is not already built, that you can help build and make it better. So we all walk by faith, and there's no chance that I made one phone call and in 3 hours I was talking to the person who gave me the job. So that happened quick. And so I believe I'm supposed to be here. And again, for the person who asked the question about our faith and how it has guided guided us and affected our lives. I just truly believe that we all walk, even when we don't know it, we're walking by faith, and God is guiding us.
Yeah, Byron, you want to chime in on that?
No, I think John and Reggie, said it, very, very well. He's right. We all believe in faith, and we all have had that faith. And I agree with Reggie. When you're praying on something, sometimes God don't give you what you want, but He gives you what you need.
Yeah,
And He puts you in places that you put in, not places that you want to be put in.
Well, and it's a test.
So and I know in my life, I've prayed on so many different occasions for some, for things that, not only for myself, but things, for my family, things for my friends, and months later, something happens that this, my boy's like, man, I got this new job. And I'm like, oh, wow, because I was praying for my brother to get a new job because he was out of work. I prayed for my son to get a job. He's in Atlanta working for the Atlanta Dreams and working with the big three. So I agree with Reggie. We all walk in faith. Everybody's religious belief might be a little bit different. I think at the end of the day, we all have faith in something, no matter what that might be. And faith has been a big part of my life for a long time. My dad's an ordained minister, so I ain't had no choice but to understand, what, and I got older, even in my 50s, you going to church, you read your Bible, I'm like, Pops, I'm a grown man. What you talking? You ask me questions. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with Reg and John 100%. And even with players, the one thing I think we try to do as leaders is we don't flamboyantly try to put it out there how much faith we have or what our religion is. I'm Catholic, but I don't, put it out there. But I will say God got you. And then the response I get is going to determine how I'm going to respond to the next one. If he's good with that and talking, now we can have relationships or a conversation on, what I truly believe in faith. So I try to leave it open with my players. And like I said earlier, that open door policy of letting them know they can always come and talk to me. It doesn't necessarily have to be about basketball. It could be about life. And I've had a number of players, during the years that would come to me and talk about family situations, and everything they come to you with, you done been through. Like Reggie said, as players who were drafted in the NBA, you have a certain amount of people that come out the woodworks that are your long lost friends, your long lost relatives, handout. And so you got to understand, how to kind of weed all that stuff out. So any player that comes to you and says, man, I got some issues with some family members wanting money. Been there, done that, bro. So let me give you some advice, So I think, again, we go back to the faith, and they're having faith in you to come to you and present some of the issues that are going through, going on in their lives is another, testament to you and the trust they have in you as a person.
And serving Middlebrooks, sorry to jump in again, but just,
No, go ahead.
He called us to, God called us to serve, man. And I think, Reggie and Byron, we've seen the service that they've displayed in their coaching and as players, but he called us to serve, man. I mean, Christ came down here and he served. And if we truly follow and, we'll do as he did. And he came down here and he served. And that's usually, if I'm walking in alignment with God, man, then ultimately the conviction is to serve these young men and serve people and to have that heart to serve. So I'm privileged. This is a privilege to be in a position to serve, and a privilege to be in a position to lead and not be this, tyrant and stand over people, but the opportunity to lead people in a direction to help benefit, whether it's their careers, whether it's education, whatever it is, man. That's a wonderful privilege. And if our heart is to serve and ultimately please God. So if I'm trying to please God, I can't please myself. I can't make myself look good. But if God is pleased, then it's gonna work out for these young men. If God is pleased, if I'm pleased, it may not work out. It might not be what I want, but if we point them towards that direction to where God is pleased in our service, then I believe these, those who are under me will work out. It'll work out.
Middlebrooks.
And that's important. So I think there's another question that segues right into that. So what are some specific strategies? This is a question from the audience, by the way, that you use to reach out and be compassionate towards someone who at first glance may appear to be difficult?
I'm going to say our jobs, if you're reading Phil Jackson's book, one of the things he said in one of his books was our jobs as coaches and as fathers and as someone's boss and in the work environment is to create an atmosphere for our players and our employees to do their best work. And it is impossible to work in an inspiring environment without compassion. And so you have to understand that we're all teachers, and whether it's the workplace or the gym, it's all the same. I say this, Magic Johnson, having a conversation with him once about his success. And I asked him, Magic, how did you go from being the guy that was smiling all the time and Showtime and, to basically a billionaire? He said, very simply, and it went a long way with me. He said, Reggie, I'm still the point guard. I'm just the point guard in the boardroom now. So I think that we have to create the environment as boss. And I, as the athletic director, I am in charge of 15 different sports. And I have a staff of 30 that I have to create an environment where everybody can do their best work. As a coach, you have to create an environment for your players to play their best ball. And you, as I said earlier, you cannot coach or you can't be over in a cookie cutter. You have to deal with each other. Now, you can have policies, but you have to deal with each employee and you have to deal with each player individually and coach them individually. To piggyback off that and to talk about what the question was, and it's at first glance, how do you deal with someone that doesn't appear to be desirable? Is that sort of what the question was in terms of for the workplace?
They look like they'll be a little difficult to deal with.
Yeah. Again,
Rub
that's
you
where
the
life
wrong way.
Yeah, no, that's where life has really changed. That's where, we gotta, listen, you gotta get used to, the Afrocentric look. You have to get used to natural hair. A guy that's coming from Harvard and has a PhD might have dreads. Some of the richest people I've ever run into in my life had holes in their jeans. So you never know what you're going to run into. You have to, again, deal with them and talk with them and understand. Now, it's one of the things that, see, my era, I'm a little bit older than you guys, guys had a tattoo. It actually really meant something. A guy get a tattoo and it was either, death, war, or he was in a club of some sort, and the club being bikers or whatever it may be. And it really, like, it was, tattoos when I was growing up, they were deep. I had laughed not too long ago, one of my players, and anybody from California and LA area who's kind of old school will laugh at this. He had this big old on his arm. He had this big old 310 area code on his forearm. I said, man, you're so young. You still got milk on your breath, because that area code just got here. The area code where you live is 213. So he looked at me like I was crazy. I said, come on, man. What are you doing? Anyway, but life has changed. So we have to accept that the guy that has a tattoo on his neck or on his arm that you can see when he comes into the office on an interview doesn't mean that he is different. I still think that in my life, I still believe that your presence is, you get more respect when you handle yourself in a different manner, when you dress in a different manner and you walk in a different manner and you look someone in the eye, when you shake their hand and you speak firmly about what your goals are. The look of people today, it goes along with exactly what we're talking about. And there's a very alternative look. In the NBA, before Byron's time, you know, we had a dress code, and that dress code was suit and tie, you know, and then they went through the baggy jeans, and, you know, now they just wear whatever, you know, it's things that, you know, just don't, I guess only today's era could wear and get away with. It wouldn't have gone very well back in the day. So I just think that you have to be accepting of people. And again, that falls definitely in the category of compassion and collaboration, because the world has really changed. Just for an example, you go to a ballpark, and the ballpark used to be, I'm going to the baseball game and we're going to eat hot dogs and we're going to eat popcorn and, you know, we're going to sit with, you know, we're going to just hang out, right? And we're going to drink beer. Well, why do you think that they serve sushi now at the ballparks? You know, because, you know, in collaborating, they want people who like sushi to come watch baseball too. So the world's changed, man. And, you know, you have to change with it. You know, if you got to play the game, or the game plays you.
Absolutely. Now, we are getting close to our time. Actually, we're over time, but they said we can go a little bit longer. So I want to sneak in one more question from the audience. How do you motivate yourself and or others when you're not feeling your best? Any tips or advice you may have on maintaining motivation to keep growing in life and career?
Coach,
anybody can answer that.
When I was playing,
go ahead, Byron.
I'm sorry, John. This is quick. I promise this is pretty quick. When I was playing back in the day, my motivation was always very simple. And this is a quick story, and Reggie probably went through something like this as well. I would run every night during the summer to get ready for training camp. And one night, you know, in Southern California, sunny California, it was pouring rain. And I waited about 30 minutes to see if this rain would subside. It never did. It got worse. And I went out and I ran, right? And I run back home, and I get on the porch, and I'm just like dead tired, breathing hard. My ex-wife comes outside. She opens the door, and then she's like, "Are you all right?" I said, "I'm good." And I came back in the house 10 minutes later, and she said, "Why would you run at this time of night?" I said, "You know why?" I said, "Because there's a guy probably 6'4", 210 that lives in Miami that's running as well." The motivation of just you know what I'm saying? There's the motivation of understanding that people in your profession are trying to get to that level. They're working hard. That's something that you can control. The one thing I knew I can control is my work ethic, how hard I work. I can't control my talent. That's God-given. You know, Reggie can't control his talent, but I can control how hard I work, how much time I put into it. And that's the thing that just kept motivating me to be a better player. Every year I wanted to add something different to my game to just continue to evolve as a player. And the same as a coach. You know, you want to, when you get to the point where you're in whatever profession you were in, that you think you know it all, or you've learned everything there is to learn about it, it's time for you to quit. It's time for you to retire and give up the game. And I never felt that way. I always felt that I could continue to grow, I can continue to get better. And my players, I was gonna say students, my players who are watching, you know, the other thing I would do every morning, I would go into the gym, you know, go in, look at the film, do all that stuff, get my practice plan together, and then I would go to the gym and work out. So when they were coming in, they seeing me out there working out. And to me, you know, when I used to see, you know, coaches, assistant coaches, whatever, working out, that's again the motivating factor for me to continue to do what I do. So, you know, everybody is motivated in different ways, but for me, it was always that I was in fear of somebody outworking me, and that's something that I could control.
And I think I just piggyback off that. It's the same deal. There's someone that's kind of on the same, if we talk about the same level in terms of coaching, in terms of a player, in terms of stature, whatever it is, we're kind of at the same in terms of our God-given ability or God-given resources. And I'm just in fear that they out there working harder than me, or, you know, right now sitting as a coach, I'm in fear that there's a college coach, we're recruiting the same player, and maybe he's on the phone talking to that guy a little bit more, or he's a little bit more passionate about bringing that young man in. And you can take it at any level. If you're an executive, you're a VP, you're whatever you are, there's somebody that's out there that's working, that has the same resources, that has the same budget, that has the same whatever, the same amount of employees, that has the same problems and that has the same, positive resources, and they may be out there working a little bit harder, and that brings a lot of fear. When I wake up, sometimes I pop up in the morning and I'm like, you know what? A coach called me at 6:30 and I didn't answer my phone because I slept in, and I'm in fear. I'll pop up in the morning and because of that, because it feels like somebody else is doing something and I'm not. And that's what kind of pops me up in the morning. My wife looks at me when I pop up. She's like, what happened? And I'm like, nothing, man. I just got to get ready to go. I got to take a shower. I got to go. And so I think that's kind of what motivates me. And I drive that into the young men. I said, there's somebody out there. You guys are looking at YouTube, or you guys are looking at whatever, Instagram, and you think that's the only guy you're competing against. No, there's thousands and thousands of young men that you're competing against for that scholarship. There's a scholarship out there, and you're not going to just walk through the door and get it. There's somebody. What's going to make you stand out? How are you going to stand out? And I don't want to go too much, but I worked as a head hunter for a year. I was out of coaching for a year. I worked as a head hunter, and I really found out every year there's college graduates going into the workforce, and there's not that many people retiring. But then in 2023, there's another million kids that graduate. And then 2024, another million kids that are graduating and getting their bachelor's degree. And what's going to separate you?
Well, that all those are fantastic, and it goes back to the question I asked earlier. Do you get more production out of someone with fear or without fear? I'm a person that's had every job I've ever wanted in my life, and the opportunity to get up in the morning and evolve. I think that we all have to continuously evolve, and you have to. Over time, you'll find that you have to reinvent yourself over and over and over. And the one thing for sure about reinventing yourself is you cannot be afraid of failure. I don't think I've ever been afraid of failure, and I've failed many times. I used to watch every year. I'd be home watching Byron play in the playoffs. We were already done because our team sucked, But that motivation, the thing that I tell people all the time is that why do businesses always want to hire athletes? Because athletes already know what teamwork is all about. They already know what winning and losing and the fear of loss and when you start to be, a gracious winner and a good sport when you lose. All those things are motivating factors. You think about baseball and you think about little league and bitty ball, you think about t-ball. There's 500,000 little leaguers and t-ballers and little guys playing, baseball when they're young. By the time you get to Division I sports, there's only about 50,000 that ever play at anything in Division I sports. So, the motivation of getting up, the motivation of success, the motivation of trying. I tell my own son all the time, you just have to be on that road. When you get on that road, traveling somewhere, you're going to end up in the place where you're supposed to be. I believe we're all where we're supposed to be. And that is motivation enough to keep evolving.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. I'm going to just get one last question in and then we'll be done. How do you take, this is another question from the audience. How do you take a step back and become more humble towards others? How do you make yourself more humble, have humility?
I let them try. I let them try to do it their way a little bit. I think from a spiritual sense, there's God's will, and then there's a permissive will. He allows you to do whatever happens, whatever he says is going to happen, but he still allows us to have a space where we can work and to kind of allow in my space, the young men to have a little bit of freedom to see if it works. And every now and then, it works. I know, Byron, you got a chance to coach Kobe, and you was like, no, Kobe, let's do it this way. But sometimes what Kobe did, it works, and it's kind of humbling to watch and see some people of youth or some people that you're teaching to be able to teach you something. And so I got to remind myself to allow them to work because they have creativity. They have something in them that they may have to offer. And then when you see it, it becomes humbling that I thought I had all the answers as well. And these young men, they, you know, I got a young man this year. I'm like, well, his name is DC. I said, well, shoot, I learned a lesson this year. He got a certain way he wants to do something. Yes, I have a certain way to coach, but he showed me in that level of humility, realizing that there's other people that have some things to offer. And that's when we talk about collaboration and a collaborative group, that's usually how the success of a corporation or a success of a team is, when we collaborate and allow each other to have a voice or allow each other to have their creativity to come out. And then it's very humbling. It's very humbling to see, from my standpoint, young players or students have this voice and have success in the midst that kind of surpass of what my vision was, that their small vision adds to my vision.
I think we all continue to grow, you know, and I think, like John said, sometimes you got to be willing to allow that person or player to succeed or fail, you know, because either way, it's going to be a great teacher for both, you know, you and him. And had that many times in my coaching career and my life as well, where I've had to just kind of sit back and allow people to do their thing. And when it doesn't work, you know, it brings that humility back in. Because sometimes, you know, sometimes you want to see people kind of fall on their face a little bit, so they will get humbled, you know, because sometimes you have so much success so early that you get to the point where you think your stuff don't stink. And sometimes you got to be proven that, and that you have to be humble, be able to listen to other people, take advice from other people. My mother told me when I got drafted in the NBA, so I mean, this has stuck with me my whole life, you know, and God rest her soul. But I got drafted in the NBA, and the first thing I was like, Mom, I'm gonna buy you a new house, a new car, I knew this, I knew that. And she said, first of all, you ain't got to buy me nothing. And she said, second of all, just because you made to the NBA don't mean you're better than anybody else. And when she said that to me, that made me understand that, okay, you know, you're still a person, you still have to be, you know. And the second part of that, she said, you know, I want you to treat people the way you want them to treat you, you know. So that stuck with me as well. So I've lived that way my whole life, Coach, where, you know, and one of the best compliments that I've ever had was from people at the gym that was like, man, you're just such a humble person. You know, you're very approachable. You're very, and that's, you know, that's God's work, you know, because I knew from an early age that I had to be that way, no matter what. You know, I want people to treat me with respect and dignity, and I will treat you that way as well. So, you know, at times when you have players that are successful, sometimes you want them to kind of stumble a little bit because you want them to have that humility when they get a little bit older. And I think some of that also comes with maturity. Once you get older, you understand that you have to be humble.
Yeah, it's so true, Brian. Byron, that's so true. I think age is a humbling factor. As you get older, you tend to do things without an ego. And you know, you don't have that little man on your shoulder, basically that tattoo going, hey, do this, do that, do this. No, don't believe him. Don't trust him, you know, and you're able to make decisions. I became a better father, a better husband when I started doing things without ego. And I tell my players this all the time, that the very first line in the Purpose-Driven Life, the book, is, it's not about you. And if you can live your life for someone else, if you can believe in that your purpose is about other people and how you can make them smile, how you can help them be successful, then you have a bigger purpose than just yourself. If you're just living life for you, then you're missing the real blessing that you have. Byron, both you and John know that signing autographs is great, and making jumpers and you waiting for Magic to give you the ball in the corner and shoot your jumper all the time and winning championships, that's all beautiful and it's incredible and it's such a blessing. But the real blessing that we all have is the opportunity to do what we're doing right now. And that is sharing our knowledge, sharing our experiences, and really giving back to people that everybody needs to hear the word. And the word is, it's not about you. And I remember talking to Coach Pitino when I worked for Coach Pitino at the University of Louisville. I was going to get my first head coaching job. And I asked Coach, I said, Coach, what can I do that slowed you down? What can I do better that was the biggest problem that you had when you were a young coach? He said, Reggie, you won't have the same problem. Now, I remember I was a little older at the time. He said, because I was really stubborn and I had a big ego. He says, you're not built that way. He said, so you just maintain. Remember, you have to rule your team with an iron fist. That means you have to have policies and you have to have rules and you have to have things the way you want to do things, but you always have to learn when and how to hug your team. Because, and again, that falls back on compassion. That falls back on being collaborative. And it falls back on how you raise your children. You want to push your kids, but you got to know when to hug them. And I think that's the way you remain humble. And when you start to believe that life is more than you, and it's not about you, it's about what you do for others.
Yeah. Coach,
and on that note,
if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead, Byron.
Yeah. Notice, and it says family. This is a bracelet that I've been wearing for years, and it's from my church, and it's pretty much what Reggie just said. And his family stands for "Forget about me, I love you."
Oh, yeah, great. That's awesome.
Serving, and this is the church that my wife and I go to, and this is our feed the poor, for the hungry, people on the street, the homeless people on the street. This is basically our motto. If forget about me, I love you, and that's and I thought what Reggie said was I wanted to just share that with you.
Yeah, that's awesome, B. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Well, I appreciate you guys. I'm humbled that you took time, Byron, Reggie, John, to do this. I'm thankful to City of Hope for providing us this platform. And hopefully something was said today to everybody that was truly transformative, and that if we made a little bit difference in the lives of the people at City of Hope and the operation of City of Hope, we're blessed for having been able to do that. So that being said, I'm going to turn it over to QB King from the City of Hope.
Coach, and thank you to the panel. Coach, this is hard. It's hard letting you guys go. I mean, we could go on and on. Thank you so much for moderating this, and to John and Byron and Reggie, thank you guys so much for you brought us into the conversation, and you made us feel like we're a part of you. It's like we're sitting in your living room listening to you guys, and you made us feel as though we've been knowing you, personally, first of all, and then knowing you for a long time, knowing you our whole life. So thank you so much. And I'm looking at the chat, a lot of people are feeling the same way. You guys brought such a great conversation to us, and thank you so much. I want you to know we really appreciate it from the heart. And thank everyone for joining us today. Please take the time to take the survey, now showing in the page in the attendance hub. And as a reminder, feel free to participate in our attendees game and win prizes, and take the time to review and join the dance session. So DJ Leo is set to spin the wax, everybody. We're going to the party. As the dance party is next. And I want to thank the panel again. Thank you so much. Wow, we got a chance to sit in on some top talent. You guys are really taking us to the class today. Thank you again for being here. And hopefully we'll see you guys again soon.
It's a pleasure.
Natasha, are we out?
Not yet. Erica said it's about a minute delayed.